Man, Gundam is back, and it's awesome! Look at that slap! I love it. Oh, the main character is awesome. Your mom tell you better. So I feel like an old man now that I can watch Gundam again. Yeah, it's like, it's been years since I saw a Gundam fight, man. Ah, there we go. See? I'm like, man, this is like what anime used to be, you know? I'm enjoying it, but I mean, yeah, it's been so long. And now it's like, I'm your wife now. But I'm a woman. Gundam is back, baby, and it's awesome, right? So if you like anime Mecha Genre, please subscribe to the head up the channel, right? Because I'm gonna give you a lot of backstory Gundam. No, but like, this is an interesting anime to watch, I feel, from my perspective, right? I feel a lot of people that do anime stuff, right, are younger. I'm an old man. No, but seriously, one thing that I feel here really, and my perspective, it's probably somewhat different than most other anime tubers, as we call them, is that I'm sitting here being like, yeah, I can't remember the last time I saw a Gundam show, you know? But I want to explain a little bit the backstory, kind of an anime, before I go into the actual episode, right? So let me just give it the history, right? What is interesting is that, like, one of my best friends that I met in university, he's one of my best friends still, and so on, he's like massive mecha fan. He's seen every Gundam episode ever, right, like 10 times, and he could tell you much more about Gundam than I can, right, than every other mecha as well, right? But he, of course, basically has stopped watching anime. And he watched very few animes. But one thing I'll tell you many times, is that he's the guy that actually showed me Kadi and Akagi. It's kind of funny because, I said many times, but Kadi is my favorite anime of all time. And he's actually the one that showed me that. I said, but it's hilarious because he actually showed me Akagi at the university, right? And so we watched Akagi at the school, actually, right? So that was awesome. And then a few years later then, I talked to him about, oh man, I'm rewatching Akagi, it's awesome, and so on. And he was like, oh, have you seen Kadi yet? And I was like, what's Kadi? He's like, wait, you haven't seen Kadi? It's even better than Akagi. So I'm like, so, but anyway, so he's one of my dear friends because he gave me Kadi and Akagi. That's why I like him. But seriously, except those gambling animes, right? He only watches basically mecha animes. And while he's, I would say, one of my like closest guys that really like anime, he seriously stopped watching anime the last 10 years, right? Because there is no mecha animes anymore. That's kind of my point, right? You watch these mecha animes. I mean, there used to be so many mecha animes. And especially, but I grew up, right? I grew up with Star Singer, the one. Which is like Journey to the West of Dragon Ball, but it's in space, right? And so on. So, yeah, it used to be all this mecha. Obviously, you probably seen the Gundam statue in real life, right? They have like a real life size Gundam statue in Japan and so on. I mean, Gundam and generally mechas, and especially Gundam, right, are or used to be so massive. And like the only mechas I feel we get now is kind of like Pseudo Trigger doing Darling in the Frost something, right? Obviously, they did take it up and Gurren Lagann, the guy next to someone before, right? So kind of has the guy next to someone, Die Buster, and all those other animes, right? So I'm happy to see Gundam, just generally speaking. I felt this thing gave me goosebumps because I'm like, yeah, this is what I used to watch a lot as a kid, right? And I'm not saying, oh, you have to be old as me or like you have to be really old to remember that time, but it almost feels like the age I am, that's kind of like the age where you remember growing up with Gundam stuff. Yeah, I feel I am at the age where like Gundam stuff or mecha stuff started to kind of dwindle, right? Probably. I'm probably too young actually to really, you know, be into it almost, right? But anyway. But I think it's interesting, right? From that perspective, first and foremost. So I got a lot of goosebumps watching this episode, and also that I watched it probably before, because I was like, God damn, man, this is nice seeing a mecha anime. Sure, we have a few other, you know, SS Gridman or whatever, right? Yeah, we have like one or two of those, like I said, trigger animes. Basically, only one of those mecha feels like in this kind of quality. And one thing I said before about the actual anime here is that I guess the main reason why is all those goddamn isekais. You know, I love isekais, don't get me wrong, I like isekais, and honestly, I do like fantasy more than sci-fi, most of the time, but I would say the straight up reasoning, if you're wondering what happened to all the Gundam, what happened to all the mecha shows, what happened to all those Die Buster or whatever, right? The reason why is simply that all these novels, right, like I have the Konosuba novel here, right? All these novels have sold so well, right, that at best you get something like 86 something, right? Which is kind of like sci-fi-ish, right? I mean, it's sci-fi, but it's not really about all the mechas fighting or whatever, right? So, yeah, the selling of all these novels, and of course, most of the light novels are isekais, right, into fantasy. And honestly, I feel like most, like, mechanical, you know, mecha novels or sci-fi, whatever you call them, or also usually also from isekais, right? Yeah, it's like someone being reborn into a mecha world of sorts, right? Or the universe with mechanics. And I think otherwise, I would say lastly here that I guess generally speaking, right, what you get a lot is this like Fantasy Star, a little bit Fantasy Zone, where you know it's like medieval time, right? But they kind of have laser swords. Yeah, you get the kind of mixture, right? Where you're like, oh yeah, they kind of have science stuff, but they also fight like medieval knights. But anyway, I digress about the actual episode. But as you can probably guess, right, I came in here and it's like, yeah, like I was happy seeing some Mecha Gundam fights, right? It is so uncommon, like I said, because of the massive rise of fantasy, right? So that's the last 10 years, you get like, you know the drill, you get like 5 isekai per season, right? Whatever. I like the episode, I like the fight. It looks really good though. Yeah, it looks great. And I really do like the main. I love the scene when she slapped him, was like, that's my friend and I am thinking a possibility. And then of course later on when she wins, she's like, oh, I'm your wife now, let's get married now. Oh, we're lesbians now, I have to marry you. So it goes full on Yuri, yeah. But no, I think the main character is really fun, right? It does feel, and I will say it here, right? I like the episode a lot actually. I like the episode a lot, yeah. But it does feel kind of modern, right? I'm just saying that I wouldn't say you find this like super straight up Yuri, you know, kawaii, genki, but also a little awkward girl in the older Gundams in this sense, right? Even though you have a lot of like female, you have a lot of female character Gundam, right? Or similar mecha shows. But they usually aren't this like, oh, yeah. This is the new, I feel. And that feels a little more modern, right? This is something you feel like a harem anime would have, or more something like that, or maybe a Yuri anime would have, right? So it feels like a mixture, but that being said, I liked it, right? You know, it feels like a more modernized Gundam, right? Again, I think Gundam has, or the similar anime has a lot of cool, like badass female warrior ladies, right? But this is like that, little bit of that with her wife, or her fiancé. Then she's a little more, you know, the stoic badass, right? Yeah, she's the hothead, I guess, you know, the other one is stoic, definitely. Kind of like Lycoris Recoil, of course. You know, one hot, one cold, right? She's obviously, she's Chisato then, would be this girl, right? And the other one would be Takina, right? Quality was very good too, right? Yeah, it looked great. The animation was awesome. It was very, very clean, I think. I liked, as I mentioned, the main character. And one reason why I like her, right, is that body movement, right? So it's a great animation. So Zero felt very typical, you know, the political stuff you find in a lot of this classic Japanese anime sci-fi, right? Yeah, they're usually very political, of course, right? I think that more so than most animes are today. The Gundam shows and similar mecha shows, definitely. But I think the reason why, right, because a lot of these mecha shows has to do with war, right? I mean, obviously, but I mean, it has to be more war, like you have to use mechas. But the reason why I think about it is because you can't just have a big ass mecha, right? To have a big ass mecha, someone has to build it, right? So I think that's the reason why. The reason why is because we have to have a country or like some kind of commune, right, to build a mecha and fight the other mecha. It also needs a country so they can have a mecha fight, right? Where if you have a fantasy anime and the character is stuck in a forest and I a fire medic, right? Oh, I was born with fire medic. Yeah, the way is very different. The premise is very different. And that's probably why most of the mecha shows I was get into this, you know, political drama. Who's gonna betray who? You stop. I think I'm right in that. That's probably why, you know, episode 0, right, is that very typical political mecha show. So they were quite different, right? The 0 were again the more political. One was much more kawaii, more fun. Let's get married. You're my wife now. I got my own girlfriend, so on. But I like them both, and I'm happy to see more of Gundam. What do you guys think? Are you happy if I have a mecha show again? I mean, of course, I've been a few other mecha shows, but you know what I mean. And Gundam is the most iconic one, right? Leave a comment below, guys. Subscribe to one and see you guys tomorrow with Golden Kamui, which is one of my absolute favorite animes of all time. I'm a huge Golden Kamui fan.